Hello, NovaCon, and thank you to our partners in the U.S. military and Five Eyes countries for inviting us to speak with you today about the human side of innovation. I'm Suzan Briganti, and I've had a rather unusual life, I suppose. I was raised in Silicon Valley since before it was even called that, and my father, who was a PhD in physics, worked for Stanford Research Institute, working on a lot of military technology, so I sort of grew up in this space. And I became really passionate about the idea of unleashing innovation potential in humans, and particularly how to unleash this superpower inside large organizations, because the majority of humans work for large organizations today. So it's a lot of sort of potential, all in a bottle, right? And we really, one thing I've found working in enterprise innovation for about 30 years is that every large organization wants to drive innovation internally. But the problem that we realized is that the workforce really largely wasn't hired for that. They're hired for specific functional skills. So this problem has now become quite urgent because about 83% of large organizations feel that they're at risk of disruption. And this statistic comes from before the pandemic. So now it might be more like 93. So today I want to share with you how my company, Swarm Vision, went about identifying innovation talent inside large organizations, developing much higher performing teams using predictive analytics software. And at Swarm, we really believe that to innovate is human, and this is a fundamental sort of birthright, if you will. So the way we got started was a few years back in 2014. I had an epiphany that a lot of the reason that big companies are being disrupted is that they're still staffing, organizing, and governing themselves for the industrial age, which was a period of relative stability around the world, when we're actually living in the innovation age today. So we're using the approaches on the left and expecting the outcomes on the right, which never works. And one of the main reasons that this is so is that large companies really don't know how to identify innovation talent. What are the traits that actually are highly predictive of the outcomes they want? And how to find that talent in both their workforce and in their candidate pools. And then what to do? What do you do with it? How do you organize it, support it, etc.? So being data nerds here, we looked around and saw all kinds of studies on creativity and studies on entrepreneurs, but really nothing rigorous or international about entrepreneurs. The folks who create new products, services, solutions, etc., inside large organizations. So we performed the largest study in the world, it's turned out, of serial successful innovators, and it involved 4 rounds of research on 4 continents. And the reliability is super high with a p-factor of 0.001, which basically means 99% reliability. So what did the research find? It found that 8 skill clusters were super highly correlated with real-world results from innovation, the kind that we all seek. And they're highly differentiating from the general population, these 8 traits. So you can see here that create is only one of the 8. And so we often use the words creativity and innovation interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. And there are also 26 subclusters within this, so that gives us a super granular and nuanced understanding of individuals, teams, and organizations. One big result is that you can involve way more people in innovation than the so-called creative types, the ones who give innovation sort of a bad rap for being all about ideas and no execution. And another big aha is that one person doesn't need to have all 8 skill clusters. In fact, few do. But we can design more high-performing teams by leveraging the strengths of individuals, and I'll actually show that to you in a minute. So having done this research and getting it published, we build a turnkey software as a service platform that lets you identify the innovation talent that you already have, organize it into stronger teams, functions, business units, etc., and align it with your purpose. And then you can also upskill that same talent 10 to 20% in just 8 weeks, and then nurture and retain it. So it's a complete innovation system from Silicon Valley. So we were super psyched back in 2018 to be named HR Tech Product of the Year. Very nice. We got our patent and all of that. But really what matters to us is that the kinds of companies and organizations we work with, and it's really across every sector, from government to transportation, energy, retail, consumer health, high tech, travel, packaged goods, etc. And please stick around after the short break, because I'll be interviewing Tony Brescia of the U.S. Navy about how the Navy's using Swarm to drive transformation in their Advanced Science and Technology group. So today I'm just going to focus on the first two parts of the system, identifying the talent and then organizing it. And if we have time, I'll show you the last two parts. So the first step to using Swarm is to profile your employees, usually starting with a business unit, or in the case of the Navy, it was NOC-AD, their Advanced Science and Technology Group. So the assessment is done online and it takes 15 to 20 minutes and the results are instantaneous, so both for the individual user and also for the leader. You'll see 4 different types, and they vary really about whether they innovate more comfortably within the established core organization or more in the future unknown context, and no one type is better than the other. It's really just about knowing who you are and aligning your organization's talent to your strategy. You don't need to have all of the talents, and almost no one does. So your first hack, once you've used Swarm to profile your people, is to identify those high potentials for innovation. These are the people who sort of fall in the horizon 2 or 3 range. And the happy news is they make up about 22% of most large organizations to start with. So this is great to know, great to grab those people, make sure they're being leveraged. Your next hack is to analyze and strengthen your teams so that they have coverage of all 8 of the innovation skills. And if you need to, you can actually develop the innovation talent of your people with a 5-module online course. It's fully online, as I mentioned, so you don't even need to wait for the end of the pandemic. And we'll be talking after the break with Tony Bresky about how they've done that at the US Navy. Once learners complete the training, they can retake the profiler, and in every single case, they've moved up significantly. And not many training programs can show this kind of concrete ROI that quickly. At the same time, your pipeline is getting filled with really robust, well thought out innovation proposals. And it's not uncommon for a Swarm proposal to be targeting a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. And often those proposals are getting more funding because they are so well thought out, and they're like very rich in stakeholder insight and have a business model and a lot of traction. And then finally, now that you know who your innovators are and have invested in developing them, you can drive a culture of innovation that supports them. One quick example, in addition to the military, is HP Global Software, and they were able to triple their innovation output and double their employee engagement with Swarm in less than 6 months. So in closing, every organization faces the disruption today, and innovation really only comes from humans. We may use technology and science to create innovation, but even that comes from humans. So at Swarm, we really believe that to innovate is human, and we want to unleash this talent in your people. It drives incredible engagement and productivity as well. And I think you'll agree with me that the world needs a superpower more than ever today. So please stay tuned after the break and join us to hear about how the US Navy is using Swarm to drive transformation within their Advanced Science and Technology Group. Thank you so much.